Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on connecting the carbon reporting dots with IBM Envizi. I'm Charissa Jaganath, Head of Responsible Business for Logicalis. It's always a pleasure sharing updates on our sustainability journey at Logicalis. And today, we want to talk about some of the challenges on that journey, particularly when it comes to sustainability reporting and data across a relatively decentralized global organization. But first, let me introduce my panelists. Simon Seitz, IBM Sustainability Leader, and Mevin Anenden, Logicalis UK and I Account Director. Welcome.
Thank you,
In
Teresa.
this session, in this session, you'll be hearing from me and our experience as a small responsible business team managing global sustainability reporting across a number of regions, and how we've implemented the Envizi platform to reduce the manual process and streamline our efforts. Then Simon will share some insights to the broader regulatory landscape and how technology can help navigate this. And he'll provide insights to the incredible use cases available in the platform that make our lives so much easier. Finally, we'll hear from Mevin, who will share the key conversations he's having with Logicalis clients on sustainability and some tips on getting stakeholder buy-in and building a business case for investment. Simon, Mevin, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's set the scene for where Logicalis is today and how far we've come in our sustainability journey. When we began to formalize our sustainability or responsible business strategy almost 4 years ago, a huge success factor for the momentum we achieved was unanimous executive buy-in to proceed with our carbon commitments and sustainability goals. In fact, our CEO was so supportive that we've even attached executive KPIs to our sustainability goals. That's how serious we are about this. Some of those specific goals include becoming a Scope 1 and Scope 2 carbon neutral global organization by 2025 and achieving net zero by 2050. Our targets have been carefully developed and modeled for each of our country operations, and I'm proud to share too that they've been validated by the Science Based Targets Initiative, or SBTI. This validation ensures our goals align with the latest climate science and contribute to the global effort to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Now, as you can imagine, driving carbon reduction efforts across a global organization is challenging. And to enable us to achieve our goals, we formed a global environmental council, a team of in-country volunteers who have been instrumental in modeling our carbon reduction needs on a country-by-country, year-on-year basis. We also have a team of data owners for each of our operations who are tasked with contributing carbon data to our global carbon database. This granular approach is crucial for us to meet our goals effectively. Now, despite having these plans in place and building capacity within our teams to collect data, we encountered several roadblocks in our data collection process over the years. But let me take you back to where it all started, with the Carbon Disclosure Project, or CDP. 3 years ago, we collected data across all of our operations for CDP for the very first time, using the process to establish a baseline of our carbon emissions across the group. And that's when the reality really hit us. This was going to be quite challenging. We have operations in 30 territories, and we don't have dedicated ESG teams in any of those countries. So we started with what seemed like the simplest solution: Excel spreadsheets. This approach ultimately presented significant challenges, particularly with real-time data visibility. Tracking country-specific emission reduction progress was difficult, with considerable delays in data updates. Data integrity was another significant concern, with multiple people inputting data into spreadsheets, so human error was a challenge. Our SharePoint-based storage system complicated version control, and we couldn't properly verify information due to the inability to attach supporting evidence. The most pressing issue was definitely time inefficiency. Our volunteers, who managed this alongside their primary roles within the business, were becoming overwhelmed with mounting data requests and challenges. The situation reached a critical point 2 years into our data collection. Volunteers expressed frustration about the time-consuming process and constant document searches. So, we needed a comprehensive solution, a platform that could handle our decentralized structure, enable real-time updates, provide oversight, and remain cost-effective. And this prompted us to explore market solutions evaluating various providers while considering our unique organizational needs. And that's where we connected with Simon and his team at IBM. Simon,
Thank you very much.
hi, could you share your thoughts on the ESG landscape and how technology can support the challenges organizations are currently facing?
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Charissa, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's on the call today. Firstly, Charissa, I just wanted to start with by saying what a fantastic story, and congratulations to you and the team on all the hard work and the great work that you've done to date. And I'm excited to see where the journey lies for Logicalis from a sustainability perspective. I would like to obviously discuss kind of the transformative role that technology can play in managing ESG data and reporting amongst the backdrop of the ever-changing regulatory landscape. Um, as concerns grow for sustainability, companies are under increasing pressure to comply with regulatory frameworks and improve their ESG performance. Over the past few years, we've seen a dramatic evolution in the ESG landscape, primarily driven by an influx of regulations aimed at standardizing sustainability practices and enhancing transparency. Over the last several years alone, we've seen over 180 new legislations globally that have an impact on ESG. Most commonly known frameworks and regulations for many of you on the call today will be familiar with the CSRD, the ISSB, CDP, as Charissa mentioned, the TCFD, and in the UK, we'll be seeing the introduction of the SRS next year. However, we're seeing regulations across so many areas of ESG, such as corruption legislations, modern slavery regulations, anti-greenwashing, and the list goes on. And I do think that we're still at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to ESG regulations. And ESG compliance is clearly at the forefront of organizations' minds, pushing organizations towards enhanced reporting and transparency. The biggest challenge, though, that I hear on a regular daily basis from most of the organizations I speak with is, of course, data. Data is key. You know, to be transparent, you need to have good data. To hit your targets, you need to have good data within the organization. And technology is going to be essential to solve any of your data challenges. And I'm asked regularly, do I collect all my data first, or should I implement technology with the data that I have? And Charissa, I'll be keen to understand your thoughts and maybe any advice that you have for organizations who are considering a platform to support their needs with the data that they have at the moment.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, I must be honest, I don't think there's any material benefit to waiting, to be honest. In fact, I think we would have avoided many of the early challenges that we did if we had a suitable platform to start our data collection processes with. A platform like Envizi can actually support the collection of the correct data at the correct time, especially in light of the reporting requirements that you've just alluded to. So, in my opinion, the earlier the better as far as possible.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. And you mentioned earlier as well, kind of the challenges that you have faced, and if you had technology earlier available to you, this could have eliminated some of those challenges as well. We're all familiar with the GHG protocol and the three scopes that companies are having to report on. Many organizations that I'm working with do have a good handle now on their scopes 1 and 2, but scope 3 is by far the biggest challenge for organizations, collecting accurate, but also having complete data. It is a struggle for organizations. At Envizi, we've been working very hard with our clients on collecting their scope 3 requirements and data. We've introduced AI capabilities to support categorization of spend data. We've built a new supplier engagement portal to collect more granular level data, such as product carbon footprint or PCF data. But I believe no matter where you are in that kind of discovery phase of collecting your data, technology will support your organization, whether that's to identify gaps, create an environment that connects you more to your supply chain and your value chain in collecting your data. And also it will relieve and streamline some of those processes to give you more time to be able to really focus on those gaps and collect kind of PCF data as well to be more accurate in your reporting. As you can see on the screen now, Envizi provides kind of good visibility that enables organizations to review their Scope 3 data and see their supply chain and their biggest contributors. Charissa, I know on the subject of Scope 3, organizations are facing these kind of earlier challenges that you mentioned. Could you share maybe where Logicalis are with regards to focus on Scope 3 and why you thought Envizi could be a good platform to support your Scope 3 requirements?
Sure, Simon. We embarked on tackling Scope 3 emissions by first undertaking a Scope 3 assessment, through which we looked at each category of Scope 3 emissions and determined which of these categories are most relevant to Logicalis's operations and which we could start to tackle. Our main source of Scope 3 emissions at Logicalis is purchased goods and services. And others we also prioritize are categories such as waste and business travel, which we have a good level of control over. Now, we know that tracking Scope 3 categories of emissions and managing our supply chain is a huge undertaking. And doing so using spreadsheets and having to manage multiple sources of data was challenging for us. So, being able to now integrate these data sources into a single platform is going to make a huge difference to our ability to track and manage these. And with Envizi Scope 3 module, we feel more confident than ever that we'll also be able to work on bringing down these emissions that are such a significant part of our total emissions, as they are for most organizations.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's exactly right, Charissa. And I mean, data is going to be a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge for sure for organizations. But again, I think creating that data strategy, having an ongoing plan that's not static as you grow your sustainability with your sustainability journey, really focus on the data that you do have right now, get a good understanding of that, and then look to implement a platform to kind of streamline the process, automate the flow of the data, remove those kind of manual processes that you're going through right now. But once you have the data strategy in place, you start using a platform to collect all of your data, and you're able to kind of report on the data that you have. I think it's a good place then to start focusing on your targets and being able to track against your performance as well, or track your performance against those targets. Sorry. We heard a few moments ago from yourself, Charissa, that Logicalis have aligned to the SBTI, or the Science Based Targets Initiative, and they offer companies a clearly defined pathway to kind of reduce your greenhouse gas emissions in alignment with climate science. And it's definitely one of the kind of gold standards I would suggest for organizations who are considering aligning with such an initiative, but ensuring kind of business strategies are resilient and future proof as well. Just I'll be interested as well to learn from you, because Envizi has several ways that we're able to support our clients with their performance against targets and KPIs that they set. How are you tracking performance against SBTI, and how are you using Envizi to support that your performance as well?
Thanks, Simon. I definitely say that using Envizi to collect our Scope 1, 2, and Scope 3 data and to be able to view this data in real time is really useful in enabling us to meet our targets. Our targets for each country differ year on year, and having that ability to see emissions reduction and to hold local teams accountable is crucial. The target setting and tracking module that we've subscribed to through Envizi allows us to set our targets for emissions reduction and track progress over time. So, for example, we'll use it to align to our science-based targets and to the year-on-year emission reduction targets we've set for each country. So I think it's going to be a huge step forward from that very manual kind of delayed process we were using with spreadsheets.
Brilliant, thank you. That's very interesting, and I think the next kind of step after you've kind of got alignment with targets is, and you have that single source of truth and being able to track your performance against those targets. Our organizations then really need to consider their reporting requirements, and there's so many things to consider when it comes to reporting in my eyes, and the conversations I have with my clients. I think one of the most important things, though, is transparency. Being transparent with your employees, with your exec committees, your external investors, your supply chain, your customers, and also the regulators as well. As we've discussed, obviously regulation is a key thing now moving forward for sustainability. Companies are increasingly required to report under various frameworks that we've mentioned already. The CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project, that focuses on climate change, water security, deforestation, and encourages companies to kind of disclose environmental impacts. The TCFD, which is the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, aims to make climate-related financial disclosures the norm, providing insights into risks and opportunities tied to climate. The one that I know that it's on the mind of a lot of organizations now is the ESRS, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. And these standards help align sustainability disclosures with the CSRD, and which is part of the EU regulations. Charissa, I know there's obviously a lot of frameworks, and you're reporting into a number of these frameworks. And I'd be keen to understand, how you're going to be using Envizi to support your framework reporting, and what are your kind of expected outcomes from reporting as well.
Thanks, Mevin. It's a huge undertaking for us and a big focus for us in the coming year. So, using Envizi to build in the metrics that we need to report on to meet the requirements of these frameworks is already proving to be very useful. For example, we're currently completing our double materiality assessment for CSRD reporting. And having that ability to collect data in a streamlined way is going to make the reporting process and, really importantly, the assurance process significantly easier than if we were using our old system. So, one of the features we loved about Envizi when we first saw the demo was the ESG reporting frameworks module, which uses AI to review all of the frameworks and do a benchmark against each question. So this feature supports reporting aligned with various global standards that you've mentioned, such as GRI, SASB, TCFD, and that's really going to help ensure Logicalis can meet diverse stakeholder reporting requirements across its 30 territories. So a huge undertaking for us in the coming year, but we're feeling a lot more confident than we were before with the help of Envizi.
Brilliant. It's good to hear. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that supports you over the coming year with your reporting obligations. So we've highlighted the oversight of and management of ESG data, which is steeped in complexity. Technology can lead to transformative shift in how organizations manage their ESG data. In my opinion, I think technology is always going to bring value over manual processes. And with the introduction of AI, we're slowly starting to see more process being streamlined and less time and money being spent in the long term. With technology, though, transformation is required. Starting from scratch or moving from one platform to another, Envizi has been supporting our clients for over 16 years with this transformation, with a tested and proven methodology for implementation. I think adopting technology solution, though, involves kind of several key criterias. And I think, one of the key things, and you mentioned earlier about your CEO being involved in the sustainability work that you're doing, and having that kind of tone from the top is really important. And you need to really engage the key stakeholders when it comes to sustainability, because so many different functions within an organization are impacted and need to be involved with the reporting as well. So I think that is paramount, is really kind of engaging with the key stakeholders within the organization. Creating the business hierarchy for reporting. I think this is really one of the key things, and I'm sure, Charissa, during the implementation process of Envizi, you found that this was kind of a big area of focus for us, is to be able to help you with your reporting requirements and align with your data strategy to be able to report in the right way to your organizations and externally in your organization and externally as well. Loading of historical data. Obviously, it's crucial to create and establish a baseline for you to be able to measure and progress the work that you are doing, and being able to benchmark against your historical data. Training, definitely another key kind of area when utilizing new platforms. Effective training is essential to ensure that employees are comfortable with using this new technology and the new ways of working. My suggestion is having workshops, hand-on sessions, kind of clear documentations on how this is going to empower the team members who are working with a platform for sustainability, and align them with the new functionality within the platform as well. And again, I just want to reiterate the strong leadership and kind of ongoing support from management will really drive the success of implementation of this technology. Could you maybe elaborate, Charissa, on kind of how this aligns with your experience with onboarding Envizi?
Sure, Simon. To be completely transparent, while we were aware of the steps that you've just described from the very beginning, we did underestimate the time it would take from our internal team to set up the platform, particularly on that piece on setting up like the business hierarchy that you talked about. So we did have to dedicate more time than we had anticipated. And to be honest, not being technology people as the responsible business team meant that it wasn't always easy to understand or translate our needs to the solution. But what we appreciated was how responsive the IBM team were to our challenges. And their support meant that we were eventually able to get to a place where we feel really confident about the way the platform has been configured. And it's been configured now to specifically align to our organizational structure, to our reporting needs. And that's why it took as much time as it did. But it was undoubtedly challenging at the beginning, but I'd say worth all of that effort now.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing that. And but I'm glad to see that it's definitely worth the effort now, and looking forward to kind of seeing the outcomes of you using the platforms over the years to come. So, um, but just to summarize, really, before I hand over to Mevin, who's going to share what's top of mind in the space of Logicalis' clients, and how the importance of building a business cases as well. Technology is going to play a big part. Not only in the things that we've discussed today, but I think just to help us all achieve our targets moving forward. By shifting from manual processes to a tech-driven solution, organizations can kind of anticipate several kind of key beneficial outcomes, in my opinion. Increased efficiency. Automation reduces kind of manual entry errors, accelerates the reporting process, freeing up valuable time for strategic initiatives. Improved data accuracy, enhanced consistency and reliability in data reporting that allow for audits and third-party assessments to be conducted with confidence, and also is going to save significant time during those audit processes and money as well. Enhanced insights, a centralized kind of approach provides richer data analytics, enabling more informed decision making and improved sustainability performance. And ultimately, organizations can expect to gain a competitive advantage, drive sustainability performance, and meet stakeholders' expectations more effectively. Um, Mevin, I wanted to pass over to you if that's okay. I just wanted to see if you could share your thoughts and the views of your customers when you speak with Logical, because I know you speak with clients on a day-to-day basis. So be keen to learn what their thoughts are and your thoughts as well. You might be on mute, Mevin. Oh, you're on mute, Mevin. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
There we go.
Sorry. Thank you, Simon.
No worries.
It's great to hear the Logicalis journey so far, and thank you, Charissa, for sharing. I mean, from my perspective, sharing is a foundational principle, right? As in a world connected as our own, cross collaboration is crucial to powering progress. So I really start by sharing the Logicalis path to net zero. Logicalis has been on the glide path to net zero for around 3 years, and my clients have been keen for the support and the shared learnings. Now, we have the bonus of being an international partner in some cases, we've noticed sort of different areas of focus at a regional level. For example, we've seen that in the UK and Europe, the customers I've spoken to, there's a focus more on the E part of ESG. And in the US, there's a focus more on the S part, i.e. the D&I. I found that organizations that I speak with have similar glide paths to net zero that sort of like gather around 3 or 4 areas. One is around people, looking at the emissions from home working, commuting. 2, places, understanding emissions from property and technology and data centers. Third one is travel. what are the emissions from travel, and adopting and creating sustainable sort of travel policies and use of services like we do at Logicalis, like Route Zero, for example. And then procurement, where do you start, and understanding how to bring together a sustainable procurement policy, that brings into scope how customers manage and evaluate their third parties, which then links into sort of third party risk management, and then sometimes will link into governance, risk, and compliance. So, one of the drivers also for this increase in ESG reporting requirements in certain sectors, specifically finance, is that we're seeing more and more organizations now taking a responsible investing approach. And as such, one of their KPIs is around ESG. For example, I spoke with one organization who is looking to understand how and where to start on this journey, as they have to refinance part of their property estate in the near future, and they need to be able to report on ESG to their prospective funders. So this international exposure has positioned Logicalis to be a relevant partner. I think, as with our ecosystem partners and our advisory first approach, we've recently launched our sustainable IT blueprint globally. And that's with a focus on helping customers reduce carbon footprint in their IT environment, whether that's through sustainable network transformation, whether it's reducing the carbon impact of their IT environment, implementing smart buildings, or just on a sustainability maturity assessment to find their starting point. And from speaking to clients, I would say a good portion of our customers that I speak to are in the educate phase right now, really trying to understand the impacts and what to do next. And I think clients care about this for a number of reasons. I think one, regulatory compliance. I mean, like Simon, like you just mentioned, that EU regulations are tightening, right? And we expect to see that all over the world. That's going to happen. Again, we have a new executive in the US. We don't know where the US is going to go, but Europe is very much committed to this. And we've seen our own Prime Minister double down on some targets, right? There's a risk of fines and future taxation. So, regulations have teeth. The other one is brand reputation and competitive differentiation. Doing something is not a good look. We're all consumers, right? And consumers vote with their feet. Thirdly, reducing costs and improving the bottom line. This is, yes, it's about the environment, but it's also about reducing costs. We must remember that a reduction in energy and carbon often comes with a reduction in costs. Our Logicalis' recent case study with Noble Foods demonstrated both a cost and carbon saving in a network transformation program we delivered of around 15%. But I think the key for improving your chance of achieving any of the above I've just discussed is creating a good commercial business case and getting the right stakeholder buy-in. Something that sustainability leaders, I think Charissa said, we're not technology people. Something that sustainability leaders often don't have a lot of experience in doing. And Charissa will have gone through this process, I believe, in getting the funding for the IBM Envizi platform. I found that sustainable business leaders usually report into the CFO and sometimes, in some cases, dotted line into the COO. So building cross-company consensus is key, And here are some of my tips, I guess, for building a good business case for technology investment. Even if it's for sustainability, you still need to demonstrate the return for the business. So I think the two things, we really want to nail is the financial benefit. What ROI can we expect over what term? What are the cost savings? The revenue growth. Effectively, what's the upside? The other one is operational efficiency. How does this technology deliver outcomes that move the business forward? I think, as Charissa already alluded to, in Logicalis' case, the overhead of global reporting in Excel and in SharePoint was costing the business time and money. And plus, we ran the risk of burning out environmental council volunteers. We risk invalid or incomplete data, and ultimately not meeting our net zero commitments. So by framing sustainability technology as a strategic investment, rather than as a cost center, I think we can effectively gain C-suite buy-in. Remember, I think the key is to speak the language of business, ROI, operational efficiencies, risk mitigation, and competitive advantage. With the right approach, you can position sustainability initiatives as essential drivers of long-term business success. Now, I mean, Charissa, does any of this align with your experience of implementing IBM Envizi? Because I'm guessing you'd had to build sort of a robust business case for investment.
Yes, absolutely, Mevin. Some of the aspects you've touched on were exactly the approach we took. As a business with operations across the globe, we had to make sure that every executive leader was aligned and on board. So the real selling point was we needed to future-proof for regulatory compliance coming down the track ahead of a mammoth task looming in CSRD 2026. And to your point, if we didn't invest today and get our historical data in, we'd struggle to meet the requirements of the various mandatory frameworks, such as CSRD and TCFD, and stand the risk of incurring fines and reputational damage. So it was really critical that these risks were understood by leadership, which unlocked the investment required to move forward. And you've talked about efficiency and time, and that was a big selling point for us. Our old system was incredibly time inefficient. So emphasizing that this new platform would free up the team's time really helped push this over the line and emphasize the business case for Envizi for us.
And I think maybe if I could add here as well, Mevin and Charissa. So I think, I'm seeing similar kind of engagements around the world. And in fact, IBM went through a similar process 5 years ago when we acquired Envizi to support our global real estate with our data management and reporting. And over a 2-year period, we identified that there was a reduction in 35% across all of our sustainability reporting following the implementation of Envizi. And this leads to a significant number of hours that our ESG team can utilize and more effectively on strategic sustainability priorities. You mentioned CSRD there, Charissa. I'd be interested to learn what how is your environmental council feeling about the CSRD reporting on Envizi versus kind of the Excel format that you did before, Charissa?
Yeah, at this stage, Simon, there's definitely a sense of relief to be done with spreadsheets. And I'd say some optimistic excitement to be using a platform that is far more intuitive and efficient. For my team that are tasked with data management, this is an absolute game changer. Not having real time sight of updates and having to keep chasing data owners to figure out if data has been updated or not, having huge time lags in tracking against our targets, and importantly, not having an auditable data trail were extremely challenging for us. So we're delighted with the platform, Simon, and are really looking forward to seeing how it completely overhauls how we track and manage data in our business. And on that note, we're out of time, and we do want to leave some time for Q&A. And so I'm going to hand over, hopefully, to the audience who might have some questions for us. So the first question up, is there a risk of too much regulation which even within Envizi will tie up staff and prevent them from tackling more pressing sustainability initiatives? Simon, would you like to try tackling that one?
Yeah, definitely. Is there too much regulation? I think, as I mentioned, I think we're at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to regulations. I think that if countries, organizations, people are going to hit these targets for sustainability, for a more sustainable world in the future, I don't think that there is too much regulations, in my opinion. I'm not a legal professional, but I think that would be kind of my opinion on that kind of question. In terms of Envizi and being able to report against these regulations or frameworks, I think, as you mentioned, Charissa, as well, one of the key things that was of interest to you when looking at Envizi was that we have this sustainability reporting manager. And what IBM have done is we've utilized AI technology to align all of those regulations and put each question with each regulation as they align. so that it simplifies the process for sustainability teams to be able to report against those regulations and being able to transfer answers from one framework to another. And we will continue to enhance that module that we have within Envizi. We will continue to utilize technologies to make reporting simpler for our clients, and being able to report into those frameworks. So
Just a quick question, Simon. Do you think there's going to be a consolidation of some of those frameworks? Because you mentioned quite a lot, CSRD, and in all these different frameworks. Do you think there'll be some of that? Because there is quite a lot, right?
there is already a lot of consolidation happening. So we're seeing the CSRD working with the CDP. ISSB is also working with the TCFD and CDP. And the SRS in the UK, which is coming out next year, is aligning with the ISSB as well. So we're seeing that alignment happening. And I think that will just continue as well.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks, Mevin. Our next question is, what are the key challenges of getting started? Mevin, I wonder if you can talk to that, seeing as you support a lot of our customers with this.
Yeah, thank you, Charissa. I think the drivers of this within organisations are usually responsible business leaders, right? And I guess some of the challenges they have is really getting stakeholder buy-in and helping sort of build a business case for the technology investment. So we see that as a big challenge, and we are doing this day in, day out, building and helping customers create business cases for investments in technology, aligning that to the business. So we see that as a big challenge. The lack of standardization, I think, and the plethora of, I guess, frameworks and trying to navigate through that is another one. I guess also customers' data, right? I mean, it's not just in this situation; it's data in general, right? It's the data quality, the data availability, and really helping with that. And the other one is, I think, the sort of organizations that are mid-size, really, they don't have the capacity to do this sometimes, because it can be, where do we start resourcing this? So we're helping clients with an advisory sort of approach here to help them get stakeholder buy-in and help them, I guess, create some kind of RACI matrix as well.
That's really useful, Mevin. And just to that point, I want to just share, when I reflect back on our journey, as much as we're a larger organization, I started as a one-person team. And so it's really about not necessarily having to have a huge team or a huge budget or huge capacity to take on this work. It's really about getting started and identifying the right kind of mechanisms to help move your strategy and to meet your requirements and to move that forward. So what you've just described in terms of the RACI, for example, that Logicalis can support with, can be really useful even for a very tiny team. So thank you for that. What is the time frame for implementation? Simon, I mean, I'm happy to share what Logicalis's experience has been, but perhaps it's useful to hear from you on, in general, if the time frame differs from organization to organization or organization size or anything like that. What are the factors that contribute to that, and what is the kind of usual time frame to implement a system like Envizi?
Brilliant. Happy to answer that. And I would say that on average, we're seeing somewhere between 3 and 6 months is the kind of average implementation timeline. And there are a number of different factors that obviously impact organizations. Every organization is different. They all have different targets. They're aligned with different frameworks and different initiatives that they have. Some are on different stages of their data journey. And I think the key thing, though, is to really focus on the data piece, as we kind of highlighted earlier in the call. Look at identifying the data sources that you do have. Look at automating that process of collecting that data from that data source to Envizi. And then look at the reporting requirements that you have. And I think it's important to kind of walk before you start running as well. And I think other kind of areas to kind of consider is having a team that is going to support the actual build of the platform for the organization. I saw another question which we'll come on to in a few moments, but I think that you need to have several team members. You need to have people from sustainability, from IT, and that will streamline the process and make that process shorter as well. I don't know, what's your experience, Charissa?
Yes, I'd say you've nailed it. It was the same for us. If I think back, it probably took us between 3 and 6 months from the very beginning, like the first kind of engagement. We spent a lot of that time on the kind of master data sheet and thinking of the organizational hierarchy, things like the emission factors that we wanted and how they differed from country to country. So it was really granular and we really had to think kind of everything through. But yes, we're now at a really comfortable point where we've run the workshops, we've introduced the tool across our business, and we're now gathering data with it. So I'd say we're spot on, Simon.
Brilliant.
Simon, is Envizi as a platform generally owned and managed by IT or the Sustainability Office?
This was the other question I saw come through. So I would say, Envizi is a SaaS platform. So typically it is managed by the actual sustainability team and the actual active users who will be using the platform. However, again, in terms of the implementation process, I highly recommend that organizations involve their IT team. They are going to be able to support you with creating that automated flow between various data sources that the organization have. So if that's with a travel platform or a finance platform or an energy platform, they will understand the processes from an IT perspective and the infrastructure that you have to be able to support that process of transferring data to the Envizi platform. But as a whole, I would say that the sustainability teams that we're working with tend to be overseeing the platform itself on a day-to-day basis and an ongoing basis.
Yes, that's certainly the case for us at Logicalis as well. Great. We may have time for one or two more questions. How does Envizi help with audits and SBTI commitments? Perhaps I can tackle that one. I'd say one of the greatest benefits of a platform like Envizi, and a key reason we sought a solution like it, was that many mandatory reporting frameworks, such as CSRD, require assurance on the data that is being reported. So the Envizi platform enables data owners to input data and attach a source or evidence document, which are all stored centrally to make an audit super simple. For commitments such as SBTI, the target setting and tracking module is ideal. It allows businesses like ours to ensure that we're tracking against our targets and all in real time. So I think different aspects of Envizi are helping us with different commitments and planning for our audits, for example. So there are definitely capabilities within it that are very suitable for us at the moment.
I just want to also add there as well is that from speaking to clients there is that we're seeing some of the other solutions in the market are more bolt-on and not sort of built from the ground up. And I think also what we noticed with Envizi, it also supports all major framework libraries, and it's also modular. So customers will go at their own pace and focus on different modules. I think that's been quite positive and well received. And I guess the 16 years in the marketplace, right? So I guess you can't be experienced.
Absolutely. We do have one question, but I am conscious of the time. So 1 minute for this one. How does Envizi improve the accuracy and reliability of Scope 3 emissions? Simon, would you give us a minute on that one, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
So there are various data sources for Scope 3. Automating that flow of data will improve the accuracy of data. We also have a supplier engagement portal where suppliers can log on to your instances of Envizi to input data directly into the platform. But we also have gap analysis tools within the platform as well, which help identify missing data, inaccurate data. And we also have a accrual basis within the platform to help you forecast your data into the future. So that's just a couple of things. There are other areas as well, but I'd be interested to speak to that person who asked the question to help them with that.
Good job. Thank you, Simon. Simon, Mevin, thank you so much for your time today and for all of your insights. To the audience, thank you for joining. If you'd like to learn more about Envizi, we will share the case study detailing the specifics of our own implementation. And you can also reach out to info@uki.org. www.logicalis.com to request a demo. Thank you very much.